today we're going to talk all about how to check that you've kneaded your dough enough, and more importantly, why you should be doing that. I'm Rhiannon from the Epsom Bakehouse, and you can join me on one of my live online classes to learn to bake your own delicious fresh bread at home. Take some time out and bake a delicious treat. If you'd like more bread making tips just like this, or recipes and more information about baking your own bread at home, then you can sign up for my regular newsletter via the link below this video. So today we're going to talk all about how to check that your dough is kneaded enough, and especially why you should be doing that. So when you're making dough, you start kneading and you get this beautiful stretchy dough, but has it kneaded enough? Often the recipe will say something like knead until stretchy and elastic. Well, there's a simple tip that you can be doing to check that your dough is kneaded enough. Simply break off a small piece of the dough and you're going to stretch that out in your hand. So you can see that I'm teasing it out between my finger and thumb, and it's like I'm making a little pizza from that piece of dough. If your dough is really sticky, you might want to wet your hands before you do this so they'll stick less, or you could use a little bit of olive oil or vegetable oil on your hands to help that. So keep stretching your dough out, keep turning it so you're not stretching it all in one direction, and you should be able to get to a point where your dough stretches out until it's thin enough to see the light through. So you might be able to just see there my hand behind the dough. It's thin enough to see the light through, but it's not breaking. So that is called the window pane test. So you can stretch your dough like a window. It will let the light through, but it won't break. And that says you've kneaded your dough enough. And why do you need to do that? Well, when you're kneading your dough, you're creating the stretchy gluten strands in your bread dough. And those gluten strands are going to provide almost a scaffold for your bread. So when your bread rises, your dough rises, the gluten will be there to support your dough rising and make sure your bread rises really well, and you create that light, fluffy loaf of bread that you were hoping to bake, rather than something that was dense and a bit more like a brick. So use that simple trick to check that you've kneaded your dough enough when you're baking bread at home. It literally takes a couple of minutes, nothing more, and it will make sure that you're baking even better bread at home. If you'd like another bread making question answered on one of these lives, or you'd like more bread making tips about baking your own bread at home, then you can sign up for my newsletter via the link below this video, and drop me a comment if there is another bread making question that you'd like answered on a live. Otherwise, I'll see you again soon, and I look forward to hearing about all the bread you're baking at home.